Historians tell you that Haiti was the first nation that fought and won their independence, and that it was one and only successful slave uprising. But this is not true, unfortunately. Sadly, this is not true. Not true at all. And the truth is exactly the opposite. Haiti was the last country in the world that shed slavery. It lasted until 1947. After World War II, it took that long for them to get free of slavery. Because after they defeated Napoleon, they're supposed to be free, right? But then their new leaders, which were their own, they were Haitians, they agreed to pay France the equivalent of 30 billion US dollar. The exact amount is 30 billion US dollar of today's money. It's a 3 with 10 zeros, paid to the French. And basically, at which it took 120 years to pay that money. Basically, the slavery continued another 120 years because they have to work for free, and they give all the proceeds to the former slave masters. So they went from being a slave to French. Now they become a slave to the French dogs. So the color of a slave master changed from white to black. Would it be better to be a slave to French or the black dogs? So even they had a divine help, and all the creatures of the jungle were on their side. And the question, why they do that? And I researched very hard, and the answer is because they're afraid that the French attack again. But then result would not change because you have a divine help, you have a biological weapon, and they don't. And the French the outcome can only change after the advent of a cure for tuberculosis and yellow fever, vaccine for yellow fever, which come much later. And therefore, we don't know. The only thing is just they sold their country. Basically, they enslaved each other. And then the history tells us that African enslaved each other, but the Maoris and American Indians, they didn't. And they would either kill you or they would accept you as equal. If you survive, then you would not be a slave. And so therefore, no. And you say, okay, the slavery is justified. Without it, they would starve or they would get worse. They used to be the richest of the colonies, and they become the poorest. So say, okay, where is the money? Pay them the money. And that's what Captain Cook tried to pay gold to Maorians, and it was just a shiny stone and no value to them. And it was the same. If you pay gold to Haitians, their life would not change. So they ask them what they want, and they give them guns only to kill each other. The tribes kill each other, and they brought themselves to the brink of extinction. And which it happens today in Haiti. 85% of countries under control of armed gang, and then the black man does not produce weapons, guns. So they got it from the white, and it's the same story. And when the Haitians come here, they instantly become locals because and they can become French as soon as if they choose to. If they learn French, basically they are French, but then they cannot speak the language, and if they learn it instantly, they be given a French passport, and they can go to, for instance, Canada, go to Quebec, and get out of this type of life. But they consider here's called the Haitian paradise. Because it's Haiti on the French welfare. That's what they want. And that's their home. As I said, they're same race and same religion, and everything is the same, these two, French Guiana and Haiti. That's why their asylum success is almost 100%, exactly 96% after first instance, and after they can appeal, and they get almost 100%. It's a given. After they set foot, they can get the 600 euro per month and free accommodation, which they promptly rent, and they send the money back home because of buying power. It's a 6,000 euro become 600 euro becomes 6,000 euro, and even if you are a millionaire, you don't want to spend your money here. You spend your money where it's more. Considering here the cost of living is 1/3 more than Paris, and Paris is the most expensive city in the world, and the buying power is 50% less than Paris. You can put in ChatGPT. And basically, you have Haiti with a cost of living the 1/3 to 50% more than France. And so Haitians here, they don't spend a dime. And for instance, they steal electricity because the bill is 100 euro per month, which is a ton of money back home by Haitian standards. And they dig a well because again the water bill is $100 a euro, another $100 euro per month, which is a ton of money by their standards. So they use rope and of course they don't pay rent, and they make favelas just they do back home. So no matter how much money you give them, it does not make a difference. That's what I'm saying you. The slaves, even before slavery or after slavery, no matter how much money you give them, millions of dollars, it not change their luck, not change a thing. And if you give them $1 million, then you kill them because they sent to their family and their relatives, and relatives will be killed by those armed gangs, and the money will be taken from them. And then, no, money does not make a difference. And I don't put them down. I don't put Haitians down. In fact, I envy them because they have wings. With a Haitian passport, you can fly visa-free to Taiwan, and or you can get electronic visa to South Korea, and then you can get out of this type of life, this type of leeching. And then you no longer be a parasite, and then you have a respectable life. But then when I tell them, they say first they are incommunicable because the app cannot translate their version of Creole, and therefore they are incommunicable. And if I would be able to communicate with them, they don't know where they say Taiwan and Korea is like a name of dishes or some kind of fruit or some kind of animal. And then but then it's not fair to say that French Guiana does not export anything. They export themselves. Their birth rate, their reproduction rate is 3.6, the same as Africa, which is more than double of mainland France. And the honorable ones, they move here to France and they never come back. And then, but then the rest of them, they have an inferiority complex. And they say if we go to France, they look down upon us and they turn their nose up on us. Which is the truth, because the French have a superiority complex and they're conceited. So one is deflated, one is inflated, and both of them are abnormal. And the ones that go, they have confidence. They don't have this inferiority complex, apparently. And so the good ones go, and the lower ones stay. And the population is fixed, it's not changing, because for the ones that living, they are replaced by the ones from Haiti, which is the identical. So nothing changes, culture does not change, and nothing changes. And I'm living in a Haitian favela, and the slumlord which owns this property, their land is stolen, everything is stolen, electricity is stolen, and but of course he rent from us. And he's rich. He's been here 30 years and he cannot speak French. So even if you use the French app, it's no use. And they don't use WhatsApp. They don't know how to use WhatsApp. All of them own a smartphone, but they use only the phone feature. I know that when I tried to sell item on the Facebook, I could not send them location. And they're uncommunicable. And you cannot do business with them. They don't buy anything, as I said. Because everything is expensive here for them. And it is. And it's expensive for everybody, but for them it's compared to you know how cheap. So Haiti is better actually because the cost of living is lower, and there's no other advantages except that for safety, and the fact that population of Guyana is only 55,000 and 20,000 Haitians come every year. So they are already the majority, and they live the same as they live in Haiti, and money does not make a difference. Open sewers and favelas, and you can imagine. And they are uneducated. I don't want to put anybody down, but if you're like that, you cannot even educated to use your phone. And then how can, I mean, and you're uncommunicable. Any place in the world is better than here. It's the lowest place on earth, and it's France. It's a province of France. And then you say how the whites think about it. The native French, the whites, they live. They are totally disconnected, and they are lost. They don't know where they are. When they come here, they think they are in France. Same way that the Papillon guards thought. Papillon guards thought they are in France. They were well off. They were living in mansion. The French here, they're living in mansion on the hills with air cons and all paid by the government. Most of them are government workers, so everything provided for them. And they don't understand what's going on, and they don't know where they are because they don't have they need a compass. Actually, they don't have a moral compass, and they don't have a conscience. If you have conscience, then you understand what this place is, and what the population here, what human being here, how they live and what they go through. And so it does not scratch their conscience, and they don't try to change it because they don't even have a conscience. They don't have one. And I can go on forever. For instance, a piece of airmail from France to here took 3 months to arrive, and if you receive it, and another piece of mail never arrived after 6 months. Considering it's airmail and they have daily flight, and we are in the province of France, and the post office always on the strike because they demand more salary when they're on the strike. Of course, they get money. They get money for not working. And that's the culture of France. And they said, we need more workers. And the mail only delivered in downtown to the government offices. So if you're out of downtown, there is no postal service. I think they are lower than the French Guiana. This province of France is below the poorest country in Africa. I believe the poorest country in Africa, they have some kind of postal service, which here they don't. And the French does not have a dignity or conscience to notice it and get offended or to react to it, because to them it doesn't exist such thing. It doesn't bother them. Nothing faze the French. They're totally indifferent. They're shocking. The more I know about them, the more the Francophobe I become. And then, and I eat my word. Before in my last videos, I said there's such thing as a spirit of French, but there's no spirit of China. But then I eat my word. And they said the more I know about China, the more Sinophobe I become, and the more I know about France, the more the Francophone I become. But it's a Francophony. And I can go on forever, and I will in next videos. I'm limited to 15 minutes per video, otherwise they will not download. And yeah, back to subject. So the situation would not change. And the only way to get the former slave to work, or Africans to work, is to bring the slavery back. But in whose hand, but nobody wants to play the role of a slave master, and nobody wants to be a slave. It has a bad name. But then what other, because I was advocating for former colony to join their former colonizers. That's the only way we can counter China. For instance, India join UK and become a superpower. And they go back to their glory days with resources of these colonies and their population and the landmass and the cheap labor. We can, the only way we can replace China. But then after I come to French Guiana, I bite my tongue and eat my word, which it hurts to bite your tongue. And then I found, no, this is the last thing we want. First, you have to fix yourself before you can fix the world. If you're leeches, and then you make everybody like yourself. And then they said we used to be living in a jungle, but it didn't cost any taxpayers anything, so they cut the electricity and water. And they spend tens of thousands of euros. They hire guards to push us out of jungle, and they give us a key to hotel, me and my wife, which we promptly returned because we understand it's not because they are charitable. It's because our tents are too ugly and tarnish the image of the cosmetic maker, which the French are. It was cosmetic; just care about their image. And then we returned it, and then they cut us off, and they said you refuse to integrate, you refuse to assimilate. Basically, you refuse to become a parasite like the rest of us.